Hey everyone, today I have another layout update. I haven't done one of these in quite a long time, and there's quite a bit to go over, and I'm not really going to talk about everything that I've changed since the last update, but I'm just going to go over a few major, developments that I've had and a few ideas that I've had, and things that I'm going to do in the future. So here is kind of the neighborhood area, the sort of single family housing area, if you could say that. I've added a lot of trees. I actually got these trees a few months ago, and I made them a few months ago, but I never got around to putting them on the layout. And now I've put a lot of them on the layout, and I think that they all look really nice. They just kind of add to the, interest over here. And I guess there's not much else to say there. I've added a few lighting features, like I added in that little traffic light on that island there. The green light illuminates, but it doesn't cycle through the different lights. I added a cemetery to the back of that church, which I'm probably going to show off a little bit better when I'm over in the other part of the layout. And then I've done some work behind that ranch house there too, so I'll show that off. But I've also added in a lot of little shrubs, which actually, for Christmas, one of my presents was a bag of little bushes with flowers on them, and I thought that that would look nice to have around some of these houses. And I guess moving forward, I guess here's the crossing. I haven't really done a whole lot here. I've just kind of added a few little details. Not much. But over here, I've actually added in a upper loop to this layout, and I've tried getting this track to work. It just hasn't been cooperating, and I've had this thing up for a few weeks, and I haven't really done anything with it. It's just kind of, frankly, an eyesore, so I'm probably going to take it out and, just continue with the layout as is, because this really isn't working. I guess, this late in the layout building process, it's kind of hard to implement something like this, so I'm just gonna, take this up because it's not really doing anything. Thought I'd also show off the train that I have on the layout. We have a few different pieces. We have a Lionel Lines porthole caboose that I added a bunch of trimmings to at the back there. We have a 027 Lehigh Valley car, a Lionel stock car, 3 Sunoco tankers, and then 1 metal Sunoco tanker, New York Central boxcar, a Santa Fe Jumpin' Hobo boxcar, 2 New York Central Jumpin' Hobo boxcars, 4 Lionel milk cars of different types. I don't know how I've managed to accumulate 4 of those, but, they all work. I've gotten them working okay. New York Central 6462, Pennsylvania boxcar, the more close to O scale Lehigh Valley hopper, a Churchill Downs horse car, and then a Santa Fe ABA set here. And this locomotive can pull the dummies and all of this, this entire freight train, and it's pretty impressive. For the longest time, I've been wondering what to do with this little area on the layout. And I used to have these things here. Those are meant to be oil rigs. But just as this area developed, that didn't really seem to fit the whole feel of the layout. And once I get up this elevated loop, I take that down. I'm trying to say there. I'm going to put up a little parking lot in this area for the train station, because for the longest time, there was no way to really get from the town to the train station, aside from this little path that goes across the track, if you can see that. And that implies that, off of the layout, kind of in the void, there's some kind of parking lot or other part of the town there. But I want to have a parking lot over here because it would make just a little more sense if you look at it. And also, I just need something to fill in that space there. So, for right now, just to remind me, I put a car there, so I know that that's going to be a parking lot. And I'm likely going to use those structures instead of being oil rigs or whatever I was planning with those. Those are going to be catenary structures, or they're going to be part of some new catenary structures that I'm going to add over in that area, and I'll talk about some more things in that area later. I suppose I'll start right here, and you can get a better look at the train there that I have on the outer loop. But back here, I've added a fence to the back of this house because I had the materials to make a little chain link fence, and I thought that that would look interesting. And I kind of made it look like it's kind of bent up a little bit and kind of out of shape. And then here, I used some trees from that little pack of shrubbery that I got, and I made a little sort of arbory, if you could say that, or kind of a tree nursery that this person is running there. I just thought that'd be an interesting little feature. Another thing that was inspired by the pack of trees that I got was a cemetery here, which I always kind of wanted to put one on the layout. I guess maybe that's just because I like Beetlejuice, the movie, so that kind of, that's, maybe I could make a little Beetlejuice figure and have him in the cemetery there. But I always had the church there, and I thought a cemetery would kind of complement that and fill in that space. Here I have this little truck stop sort of deal, and I've got a few trucks in there. This one is new. This one's from I believe just an antique store, and it was literally just a couple cents because it's mostly plastic. But it's actually got a metal, sort of like a sheet metal frame around it, and actually it's naturally weathered itself, and it has little rust spots like actual vehicles tend to get. And the chrome is kind of worn off too. So I thought that that was actually a pretty realistic little piece there for this truck stop. So yeah, I guess that is a little detail worth mentioning. Of course, with the highway overpass here, I'm doing a little bit of work. The wiring here is kind of visible, so I'm going to want to hide that eventually. But I'll figure out something there. And then here I have just kind of the scrapyard area, which I've got to organize a little bit better, and I got to kind of get all that figured out. I have a lot of pieces that are pretty much just like scrap pieces, like I have that caboose there, and like a Volkswagen Bug, and just some other random parts. But I guess moving on here, I've put this little scrap locomotive scene here, and I did a little YouTube post about this a little while ago. But it's a Alco 2023 shell that I a while back painted green with some white stripes and a black roof. But I eventually, got tired of that being just kind of the dummy yard locomotive, and I decided to make this into a scrap engine. And the base here, that's just a cheap MPC era Lionel flat car that's not really worth anything. So I just kind of glued that there, and I cut it so that I could have the rounded edge there. And then I added the plow. And then that's a spare truck that's kind of in terrible shape, and it's taken apart. So I thought that that would be a good addition. And then I have the rest of the locomotive. I cut this in half using one of those foam wire cutter tools, which actually works pretty well in this plastic. If you have good ventilation and whatever, I definitely recommend using that tool. It's not its intended purpose, but it works fine, and if you clean it after, it's gonna, nothing's gonna happen there. This area is kind of gone to crap. I've taken up a lot of the street lights there and telephone poles for other uses, and I've got to get that kind of squared away because this area looks very vacant and kind of terrible without it. But I'm just gonna tidy that up. And I'm also going to add in new catenary wires. And these are going to kind of match the structure of that signal bridge there, which I'll talk about that a little bit later. But I'm going to use some of the floodlight tower pieces to put together some catenary structures. And I'm going to be able to have a pretty nice looking catenary wire system, as opposed to what I have now with the kind of crappy parts there that you can't really notice, and they don't really look detailed or like catenary structures at all. I've got big plans for this area. This is, of course, a main station on the layout, and I've kind of neglected to make it look like it's actually being used for passengers. This platform down here, this is supposed to be a platform, I've got to add the actual platform part. Right now it's just a little wall. And I'm going to make that going back to that track there. And I'm going to have a subway there. Right now I just have an old passenger car in there. But I'm going to put that car in there, and that will hopefully look like a subway car to some degree. And, you know, I'll add that in there. I'll add some lighting effects. And I guess there's not much else to say on that front. But I'm also planning on maybe making these platforms look a little bit nicer. And I'm going to move that maintenance away train out of here, maybe. Or I might just add it to this siding once I get these two pieces of rolling stock off of there. Up here, I thought I'd show off a nice little thing that I've done, because this area has remained vacant for the longest time, and I always wanted to put a little park here, and I finally was able to get the materials to do so, and it all just kind of went together pretty well. So the main sort of centerpiece here is this 2026 steamer, which you may have recalled I made a video on, you know, me having a lot of problems with the motor. Eventually I want to get a new motor block, because I've taken that thing apart as much as one can take one of those apart. I've taken the wheels off and everything and cleaned everything as much as I can. And I put it back together, and it just is not working. It's just not, you know, working for me. So, I mean, it's only maybe like $40 for a really good replacement motor. So I'm just going to go in and buy one of those eventually. But it's just a matter of if I come across one. So for now, this locomotive is just kind of one of those locomotives that is in a park, and it's just kind of preserved for people to look at. And I just thought that this would be a neat idea to actually, you know, use a non-functioning locomotive for, because it looks fine. The paint is in pretty good shape, and everything is there. It just doesn't run well. So that's just a neat little detail, and I thought that that'd be a nice thing to do for this locomotive that's just kind of been sitting in junk part boxes for a lot of the time that I've had it. But moving on to the rest of this area and the stuff that I had to work on, I just put this on a piece of 027 track, and then I have a little fence going around it. That's a Plasticville fence that I painted kind of brown, or not brown, gray, and then I have a little extension of it going there. And then the rest of this area is covered up with a bunch of little plants, and that shrub is actually a bit of a scowling pad that wasn't really good anymore, so I went ahead and used it for a bush. And if you ever want hedges, those scowling pads are really, really good for making hedges, you know, the green ones. I have a bunch of little flowers around here just to make it look nice, and a couple benches. Those are from a Woodland Scenics kit that I got for Christmas. And I have a little mailbox, which was also from there. I'm probably going to add another fence or some kind of guard over here so that people won't walk off and onto the active rail tracks. And then here I have a way to get to the park, which is, you know, this kind of haphazard walkway. Eventually I'm going to get some handrails where they need to be, and I'm going to make that. I'm going to put a little wood walkway over that so it'll look a little nicer and, you know, look a little safer, because if I were in this situation where I could walk over here, I would not want to walk over here, because that looks kind of terrifying to walk over. But I have, you know, a little bit of whatever you'd call that, you know, support there to hold this thing up and make it, you know, not look like it's floating. And then I have a couple flowers at the front of this locomotive, and I have someone in a phone booth taking a call there. Alright, so here I've turned off some of the lights in the room, because I want to show off a kind of special lighting feature that I've added. And that is, I've added in functioning signals. All around the layout, I've gone in, and over the past few months I've been working on this project, but I've been adding in signals that you can manually control, and it adds a whole nother dimension to running trains. I guess we'll start with all of the, I guess, signal aspects, or I guess we'll start with looking at all the faces, the target faces for the signals, or just, okay, the signals themselves, like this part, all of them. We have a signal bridge here, that's an MTH1, and a signal 2 and signal 3. Then we have these signals here, those are post-war Lionel signals. I just used it because I had it on hand. That's signal 6 and signal 7, and the track here is for that signal, and the track here is for that signal. So that's just kind of how that works, if you were wondering. Just kind of more like a real railroad here. And moving on over here, we have this signal, which is signal 1, that's currently set to green. And then that signal bridge over there, which is a custom-built signal bridge that I put together with LEDs. And that is signal 4 and signal 5, I believe. Here we have a control panel that I put together, and all the pieces are hot glued onto the board here. But you can control the signals by flipping them like that. And each light is individually controlled because that's just the way these Atlas selectors are. So you can flip between, like this is me turning the signal 2 from red to green. And then we have, you know, signal like that. It's basically the same thing across the board here, except signal 1 is a switch. I guess I'll show you all the signals going. There's signal 1. Don't know if you can see that going from green to red. And then we have that signal bridge over there, which is signal 4 and signal 5 there. Then we have that signal 2 and signal 3 over there. Of course, when you turn that one to green, it goes to yellow before it goes to green. And then we have the Lionel bridge, which does the same thing, and I'm not going to go over there and show you the signals changing. But the thing here is, I'm going to use these for a variety of uses. And so far, what I've mostly been doing is I've been running passenger trains, and I've just been, you know, dispatching the trains through the signals. You know, telling them that you should stop at this particular station and whatnot, which isn't particularly realistic. Real railroads, or at least a lot of railroads, I don't think use signals to dispatch trains from stations. I'm pretty sure that that's just a schedule basis on when they, you know, leave. But the placement of these signals is specifically so that trains will be able to stop at stations and you'll be able to use that to dispatch them. And that's mostly if you're just by yourself. But what's really fun is if you get 2 or more people and you kind of have a, I guess more of a real railroad experience where you have multiple line chief trains going, and they're shorter line chief trains. And each loop will be able to sustain 2 trains on it, 2 blocks, I guess. And you're going to, you know, have 2 people or maybe 1 person that's running the trains, and then you're going to have 1 person or maybe a couple people dispatching the signals. And, you know, that'll be based on a block basis, where if you see the train leaving the block, which would be passing one of the signals, that would mean that, you know, you're cleared to go through that block. So that's just kind of a little thing that I thought I would add. Add some interest, you know. I was thinking about having signals that are just, you know, block activated signals that you have automatically, but I decided to go manual with these because it adds some interest to running trains, and, you know, you can get more people involved. And I just kind of like having these signals there. It adds interesting lighting effects. I hope you enjoyed this layout update. I sure enjoyed working on this layout. This video has gone on for way too long, so, you know, I guess I'll just say goodbye and Happy New Year, too. So, see ya.